Who'd have thought it, eh? Max Verstappen to Mercedes is being reported to be on the table. It sounds insane at first glance, but I actually think when you deep it a little bit more, it makes a bit more sense than you might think. Trust me on this one. My name's Tommo. Let's talk about it. So look, if you are behind on what's been going on with all the Christian Horner controversy at the minute, with the texts and all that leaking, blah, being sent out to everyone, all the journalists, to Jos Verstappen as well. There's rumours he's behind it, very much rumours, very much speculation. Who knows? We don't know at the end of the day. But the instability that this has caused has prompted some very, very strong statements from Jos Verstappen, he doesn't own the team, but he is very much in Max's camp. Of course, he's very close to Max. He's always been very close to Max. He's always been at, pretty much every Grand Prix. He's right there, Jos, and his word carries weight. But what is his word exactly, first and foremost? Well, it cannot continue this way. The situation is not good for the team, and he's driving people apart. He is playing the victim when he is the one causing problems. These quotes have been taken from numerous validated sources. This is what Jos has said. He's chosen to put these words out into the world. He knows this is going to cause a reaction. There's a lot of pressure on Christian Horner anyway, and there was a lot of solidarity from Christian Horner this weekend. Jerry was there as well with him. The Yuvidja family, who own a 51% stake in Red Bull, were there with him as well. And that is very important, because that 51% stake means that they have controlling ownership of Red Bull GmbH. This is not necessarily Red Bull Racing. Red Bull Racing is a subsidiary of Red Bull GmbH. Yuvidja ultimately makes the final call with that 51% ownership. Do I think Christian would still be in a job if it was the other way round and Austria, Oliver Mintzlaff, that side of the business, if they own 51%, I think Christian would already be gone, to be honest. Yuvidja and Horner, and this image here was a clear statement to put out that the Yuvidjas are loyal to Horner, and this has been speculated for a long time. Rifts within Red Bull between the Yuvidjas and Christian and their side, and between Austria, Helmut Marko, Jos as well, involved that side versus that side, right? And this is quite clearly how it's playing out. Christian has been, seen with the Yuvidjas. This is a statement that Christian wanted to put out here, that I am loyal and the 51% owners of Red Bull are loyal to me. So where does that leave Verstappen's camp? Because, I don't know, look, I tweeted this last night, and I feel like it does worry me whenever I see parents so involved in their children's careers. Max Verstappen's 26 years old now. He can stand on his own 2 feet, and I just really hope that he's making these decisions and making these calls, these judgment calls, because it's what he wants and not what Jos wants. Jos as a character rubs me up the wrong way. He's got a very, very checkered past. He's, if anyone's going to be slinging stuff at Horner, given what's gone on recently, I don't think a man who's got, the history of Jos Verstappen. Look into it yourself if you're interested. It rubs me up the wrong way. I'm not gonna lie, because I've got a lot of time for Max. I've got a lot of respect for Max. I think Max is a great character. I think he's very down to earth. He's very genuine, and I feel like I worry when Jos starts running his mouth, because this is not the first time. Remember when Checo kind of maybe almost certainly deliberately crashed in Monaco to convert that pole position, well, not even pole position, just being ahead of Max, and ended up winning that race. Jos came out with statements after. Is Max having to put out Jos fires? I hope that's not the case. Regardless, the Yuvidjas own 51% of that business, so ultimately if they want Horner, they get to keep Horner. That's the way it is. Clearly, Jos and Christian have had a very big breakdown. There is a very big breakdown in the two camps. So why Mercedes? Why has Mercedes come up? Well, Jos and Toto, my understanding is that they have a pretty good relationship, as the door goes, typically. But on top of that, of course, the timing, right? You've got Lewis Hamilton, the most commercially high-profile F1 driver of all time, leaving that team, going to Ferrari for 2025. Who is next right now? I mean, currently, right now, Max Verstappen, that brand is huge, right? It lives beyond Red Bull. Verstappen.com, they have their own stands at the Red Bull Ring. You know, this brand is huge. The Orange Army is a massive thing, is a massive empire. And it makes sense that Max has people on his team to support him and make sure that brand is best positioned going forward. Mercedes are losing Hamilton. Verstappen coming in, certainly on track, it would make sense. A driver of Max Verstappen's caliber, Toto would welcome him with open arms. Yes, him and George, two big characters, but ultimately Max is far and away. He is on a godlike level at the moment in terms of F1, in terms of performance, in terms of his absolute domination of this sport. Toto would be, even if it would be like difficult to manage them two, he would be foolish to just turn his nose up at this, especially with Lewis going out the door. Because that's another thing to remember as well, because kind of Lewis pulled a similar move, right? When he was at McLaren, yes, they weren't dominating like Red Bull are right now, don't get me wrong, right? But when Lewis decided to go from McLaren to Mercedes, a lot of people looked at that and were like, what are you doing? This is clearly a downgrade, okay? And right now, going from Red Bull to Mercedes is clearly a downgrade. But it worked for Lewis. He saw the long-term thing. He did 1 year in 2013 in that Mercedes pre-regulation change where it wasn't great. He still managed to win a race, right? It wasn't amazing. 2014, hit the ground running, boom. Could it be the same for Max? He joins at the end of this season, joins for 2025, has 2025 where it's a bit mid, right? Mercedes isn't great. 2026, new regulations, new power units, new aero. Mercedes hit the ground running, boom, and he's top again. Like, could that play out? Absolutely, right? Because at the end of the day, Max Verstappen holds pretty much all the cards in the situation as it stands right now, in my opinion. You've got to think, right? You look at Red Bull. Without Max, if they had two Checos, this Red Bull RB20, this Red Bull RB19 would not be considered in the same way as this incredible racing car that it is. Max Verstappen has this unique ability to extract performance from that car that Albon couldn't, that Gasly couldn't, that Checo can't either. And Red Bull have made a rod for their own back. They have decided to go down this direction where they have this one dominant driver, dominant prospect, and then the second driver just, you know, keeps the seat warm and picks up a win every now and then when Max has a bit of bad luck or makes a mistake, which isn't very often. So if this is to play out, it makes some sense, right? Because we don't know where Red Bull are going to be in 2026 onwards. Yes, they've got Adrian Newey, of course, right? But they've got to develop their own power unit. This Red Bull powertrain will be fully Red Bull powertrain from 2026, not just a rebadged Honda like they've got at the moment. I mean, it's not even rebadged. The Honda badge is still on the car. There is no guarantee Red Bull are going to hit the ground running in 2026. And Mercedes, they're a wounded animal, right? Look at the domination they had, right? Toto Wolff is not going to just sit idly by and allow an opportunity like Max Verstappen to come in and an opportunity for 2026 regulations to come in and just, you know, sit and not do anything. Yes, a lot of Mercedes HPP people did go to Red Bull powertrains, but again, it's kind of a bit of an open goal. You're seeing at Alpine at the moment, you know, if you do mess up your power unit, you do put yourself 10, 20 horsepower down, whatever that figure might be, you're out of sorts and they're stone dead last. There is zero guarantee that Red Bull are going to hit the ground running. That's what I'm saying, right? In 2026, especially when you've got, you know, the Audi project that's been working for time. You've got Honda coming in with Aston Martin. You've got obviously Mercedes, as per, you know, McLaren have decided to stay with Mercedes. So have Williams as well. So those teams clearly have confidence in the package that Mercedes are putting together on a PU. Because you've got to remember those years when Mercedes were dominating with Lewis, with Valtteri up there, getting all the wins that they did. It was mainly engine dependent, wasn't it, back then? It was mainly engine dependent. Whenever we went to a track like, I don't know, Mexico, for example, where high altitude, less engine sensitive, less power sensitive, more aero sensitive, because your aero's got to do extra work because the air's thinner, Red Bulls would always run well. That's just the way it would play out. So this one, honestly, isn't crazy. It's just not, right? You're looking at Red Bull right now. Of course, yeah, it's crazy, but new regulations in 2026. If these new regs weren't coming, then I would be like, that's a bit crazy. That's a bit wild. But the fact that they are says to me that, you know what, maybe this is worth a punt. But I really hope, I'll come back to the fact that I hope this is Max making his own decisions and not being pressured and coerced into something because Jos has got his ego hurt or Jos wants more power or whatever, right? Because we're hearing a lot of speculation around that. There is clearly a power struggle going on, and Christian clearly has the loyalty of the Uvidius. So as long as that is the case, he's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. They've put on the PR show to show that, Jerry's behind him and the Uvidius are behind him. If this relationship is untenable on the back end, then Max is going to leave. And what's the next best option? I don't see Max at a Ferrari, especially if Jos and all this, they want more power. Jos and Toto, there is a pre-existing relationship there. Remember, Max almost went to Mercedes, didn't he? The only reason he didn't go to Mercedes was because Red Bull offered him the Toro Rosso seat, and he completely jumped GP2, as it was called back then. F2, that it's called now. Completely jumped that because they were desperately wanting him in their car, and it paid off long term for Red Bull. Mercedes dropped the bomb. Literally, Toto cited that when he was talking and alluding to, part of the reason we didn't give Hamilton a longer contract is because we're waiting to see how good Kimi Antonelli is. I mean, if you're bringing Max Verstappen, that really puts that. You can't. Max is 26. He's still got plenty of time in him if he wants it. And maybe this is the change that Max and his team need to motivate him to carry on past 2028, which is what he has his contract to. But every contract has a buyout clause. We saw it from Lewis Hamilton. No one thought he'd leave Mercedes, and he did. No one thought Max was going to leave Red Bull, but he might in 2025, which is mad. We've got all of these drivers out of contract for 2025, yet the two moves we've had are Lewis and potentially Max here. Two drivers in contract. So what about everyone else? What do Red Bull do? That's the thing. What do Red Bull do if Max is to go? What do Red Bull... What do they play? Do they bring Sainz in? Maybe. Is this an opportunity for Carlos Sainz to go to Red Bull? That's something for another video. I'm just getting my thoughts out there. Links to all the articles that I'm citing here. Again, as soon as AMuS, Automotor and Sport, post about something like this, you got to take it seriously. So links below. Let me know what you think. Does this move make sense? The more I talk about it, the more I think about it, the more I think it kind of does make sense. It kind of does make sense. If that relationship with Horner is fully burnt on the back end, then Mercedes is next best play with that seat available, and the 2026 regulations are huge. Entity like Mercedes are not going to stay down forever, and Red Bull are not going to be top forever. He's not going to go Ferrari. Makes sense. But anyway, let me know in the comments down below. My name's Tommo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.